Go ahead and call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. on the dot. I'm proud of everybody for working through our issues and getting better and better with signing on efficiently. And thank you guys for being in attendance this morning. So we'll call the full board to order. And I'll start with just reading a statement. This meeting will be open to the public at the above location, which is 1801 Congress Avenue. And will proceed by video conference as allowed under Texas Government Code Section 155.12. The location above shall have two-way audio-video communication, which each of the other locations during the meeting, the president or presiding officer of the board will be physically present at the location and room listed above, which is room 9.900. Mr. Palazzola, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Ms. Crosby?
Present.
Ms. Goschak?
Present.
Dr. Ali? Okay. And I did note Dr. Ali indicated his presence visually. Mr. Bowles?
Present.
Ms. Corbett?
I'm sorry, I muted my mic. I'm present. Thank you.
Okay, we got you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Bowles?
Present.
Dr. Hughes?
I'm here, present.
Okay. Ms. Longoria?
Present.
Mr. McElhaney?
Present.
Dr. Rowan?
Present.
All right, Mr. Sauer?
Present.
And Mr. Todd?
Present.
Okay, Ms. Crosby, you do have a quorum and you can proceed.
Very good. Then I'll read our mission statement. The PA Board's mission is to protect and enhance the public health and safety and welfare by establishing and maintaining standards of excellence used in regulating practice of medicine and ensuring quality healthcare for the citizens of Texas through licensure, discipline, and education. So as part of my board member report, number one, by virtue of 3 new members being present, some of our members in the last couple of meetings have rotated off. And so part of that is that PA Klarner was replaced. We were hoping that she could be here this morning so that we could recognize her and her service to the board, but because she has started a new job and is onboarding and just scrubbed into surgery, she wouldn't be able to make it, but she wanted to relay her sentiment that she really appreciated her time on the board, that she appreciated interacting with each of you through her time on the board, and very much was happy to have participated in the work as the licensure chair, and that she basically, because of her professional needs, needed to rotate off so that she could continue to contribute to her job and her family, et cetera. So that being said, we will pass the resolution on to her, but I wanted to read it so that we can recognize her. Whereas the members of the Physician Assistant Board wish to express appreciation for Jennifer Klarner, PAC's outstanding service on this board from October 30th, 2015 to September 19, 2023. And whereas she gave unselfishly of her time and energy while serving on the board, and whereas she demonstrated compassion and professionalism while seeking to ensure quality healthcare for the citizens of Texas, and whereas her intentional ability, personal strength, and deep commitment to the ideals of public service were unexcelled, and whereas she was invaluable and enthusiastic member of the board and contributed her time and expertise as the chair of the licensure committee and as a member of the executive and licensure committees, now it be resolved that the members of the Texas Physician Assistant Board join together in honor and recognition of Jennifer Klarner, PAC, for her distinguished service, and further that a copy of this resolution be tendered to her, and that it forthwith be inscribed upon the permanent minutes of this board meeting. So we all know that this appointment is something that comes with a lot of pleasure, but then also a lot of work behind it. So in her service, we very much appreciate her and respect her willingness to serve, but then also rotate off. So we'll put that into the record. And as a segue, we have 3 of our new board members on the call today. And I think that the appointments office did an excellent job of finding folks for us that have some great experience. And in speaking with each of them, I have no doubt that they will fill in the roles that they've been put into. First, Dr. Ali, could you just speak for a moment about your practice and your experience and what you're bringing to the board? Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and I want to thank all of you for accepting me as part of this team, great team. And as I just heard about our worthy member completed 8 years, that shows a lot that what kind of dedication we have here. My name is Rao Ali. I'm a pain management physician, double board certified. One is in physical medicine and rehabilitation, other is in anesthesia pain. And I have, I think like things happen for a reason. I came in United States in 2004, and my residence started in 2005 at Montefiore. And the most things I learned during my residency from my physician assistants colleagues, because I was new to USA, and most of you know that Montefiore has one of the best physician assistant surgery internship program. So I was fortunate that I learned from you guys, and I think it has helped me a lot shaping my career from there. So I did my surgery, then I did my PMNR, then I did your fellowship, and then I grew as an entrepreneur. Now we have 14 locations from Dallas to Waco. For pain management, I have 3 doctors, 3 mid-levels. And the other day I was talking to Carrie, I'm looking for actually 2 great physician assistants for Corsicana, one for Corsicana and one for Mesquite and Ennis area. So this is my journey as a physician, and this is my journey, what I learned from my physician assistant colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. All right, so next, if PA Corbett could speak to kind of her history and her experience and just a little bit about her.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be a part of this team and excited to serve the Texas community. I have been a PA for about 20 years, and I practice in family medicine. I'm also a administrator at my current employer, which helps me dabble in some things regarding compliance and onboarding. And I also am affiliated with the NCCPA. So I just love all things PA related, and I'm happy to do anything to advance our community and our mission, and most importantly, service.
Thank you, PA Corbett. Very much appreciate your willingness to serve, and look forward to you putting your experience to work for sure. All right, so next, PA Todd. So kind of just tell us a little bit about your background and what you bring to the board.
It's a colored pass. Hey, Clay, Melinda, how are y'all? Graduated in '93 from UT Southwestern, went into cardiothoracic surgery for quite a few years. Finally got wise and went out into other pursuits. I did work with a consulting firm for 5 years, then went into pain management for 10 years. And then my son and daughter-in-law hit me up with the proposal of moving to the country and building. So moved to the country and started doing primary care out here in a small clinic in 2 towns. So wouldn't trade for it. It's been a blast. Having more fun now than I did in the big city. So anyway.
So full disclosure, I finished a year behind PA Todd, and then also PA Gottschalk at UT Southwestern. So I think it speaks to us, the longer most of us practice and are involved professionally, we end up kind of seeing things kind of come back full circle. And I also know PA Corbett as well. Not that me knowing them had anything to do with them coming onto the board per se, but I think that it's just evidence that when we speak to our friends about our service on the board and our colleagues and other people that we know in the public sector, and we speak highly of the work that the board does, and at times when there's openings, if we encourage our friends and people that we know can provide some good service to the board, that we recommend that they consider applying, because obviously when we have well engaged and equipped people, then the work we do is reflective of that. So excited about now what will be a full complement of the board. It'll be easier to get our quorum and all the other work done that we have. So thank you guys for your willingness to serve, and everybody welcomes you. It's a little harder to feel as welcomed because we're touching across the screens, but I can see everybody, and I know that's the case. All right, so on to item number 3.
Ms. Crosby, if I may just remind everyone and also instruct the new board members, when we are voting, we do need to have your camera on and your mic on so that we can see and hear you whenever we're conducting board business. So when there is a vote, please ensure that you have your camera and your microphone on. Thank you.
Yes, but you can mute in between.
Yes,
just during
ma'am, and we
the voting
encourage
time.
that.
Yes.
We encourage that to prevent all the background noise. Yes,
Thank you, Ms. Pajak. Okay, so on to Executive Director. Mr. Carlton was not able to join us today because of some other traveling and committee work he had to do. So Mr. Palazzola is well equipped to sit in his place.
Yes, good morning. And yes, for the new board members, I'm Chris Palazzola. I'm over the board's operations. And so I'm here in the room today. And so I'm going to fill in for Mr. Carlton's role for today. And the executive director report is primarily a budget report. And I believe the first thing I'm going to do is turn this over to Mr. Estrada as our CFO.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, board members. So I'll be brief with my report. In your packets, you have our financial data for fiscal year 2023. So I'm happy to report that we spent every penny appropriated to us for that fiscal year. In regards to revenue collections for fiscal year 2023, the agency collected just over $39 million. So that's 4% over what we collected from the prior year. And that's about $1.5 million. For fiscal year 2024, our revenue collections through the end of October currently sit just under $6 million. So that's about 20% of what we anticipate to collect for the fiscal year. So we're on trend, trending up. So happy to see that. And then also, due to our hard legislative work that the agency did for this session, our agency has an additional $6 million in our operating budget to support the mission. That includes hiring an additional 35.5 FTEs. So these are new positions throughout the agency. And currently we have about 17 of those positions filled. And we should see another 6 to 10 of those positions filled later this month, with the remainder of the positions being filled throughout December and January. So pending any questions, I'll hand it back to you, Chris.
Okay, yeah, and just a good idea, Ms. Crosby had, since we do have 3 new board members, if each staff member, when you come on, you just tell a little bit about your role at the PA board, medical board, all the boards, and who you are. I think I gave you a brief introduction, but you might want to add just a little bit, Joey.
Yeah, so I am the agency's chief financial officer. So any money coming in, any money coming out goes through me first before Brent approves it to go where it needs to go. I've been with the agency, it'll be 2 years in December. Prior to that, I came from the comptroller's office. And before that, I was with the Texas Military Department. So I've got almost 20 years of background in finance and accounting with the state. And I am eligible to sit for the CPA. So hopefully within the next year, I'll find some time to take those 4 exams and be an official CPA accountant and whatnot. So that's me.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. If anybody did have questions about the budget report, pause for just a second. I would add to the positions that are being added. It's great that we're getting these new positions getting added, but a lot of those positions are being filled by internal promotions. And when we promote somebody, they end up having to do their new job and their old job while we try to hire a replacement for them. So you may notice a little bit of delay or a little bit of change, and the occasional mistake, we hope not, but the occasional mistake. And obviously, Mr. Carlton, myself, Mr. Freshour, if it's about money, Mr. Estrada, we're all here to help you as well. So if you run into anything like that, don't hesitate to let us know, and we'll get it addressed.
And ultimately, I think that speaks to some of the delay in uploading the information to review ahead of this meeting. And we're feeling as though by next meeting, our hope is that we would have that information uploaded like a week and a half, basically, before the meeting.
The goal is to have everything in place the Wednesday before the board meeting, so that each board member has at least that weekend to review everything and make sure there are no, administrative issues or questions. We are actually trying to hire 2 people right now that are going to help with that function as well, because we're, like I said, lots of people trying to do multiple jobs right now. There's always going to be items that we're going to add late. If we're getting an order that suspends, restricts, revokes, surrenders a license because it affects patient safety, we're going to put that in as late as we need to. Similarly, if someone's been under an order and you've decided to terminate that order, your board meets 3 times a year. We don't want them to wait for the next meeting. So we will put those items in late to get them resolved. But we do the standing items, we do try to get them in the Wednesday before the meeting. And so as we get staffed up, we should see an improvement with that. The other 2 items on here, we have an item for the internal audit. We are in the process of kind of getting a new internal auditor or going through the bidding process with that, and selecting what the next 3 to 5 years of that audit process will look like. By your next board meeting, we should have a better update on that. The other item on the printed agenda is the legislative update. We are continuing to implement House Bill 1998, which made pretty significant changes to the Medical Practice Act. Not all of them impacting physician assistants, but it certainly involved hiring 5 new FTEs and spending a bunch more money on DataBank continuous query, which we are getting that staffed up. We are already subscribing licensees to that. We have, in communication with the comptroller and the budget board, been instructed that does not include physician assistants. So in terms of DataBank continuous query, we're only going to be subscribing physicians to that. However, obviously we still get an NPDB report with every application for a physician assistant. And obviously there's same rules requiring reporting discipline by facilities to the physician assistant board apply. So we're just kind of going through that process, but we are getting that stepped up. One of the other things we're working on is physicians were the last license type that we regulate, that not all of them were fingerprinted. All of you are fingerprinted. All of our other license types are fingerprinted. We will be fingerprinting the last group of physicians. There's about 70,000 that are not currently fingerprinted, or were fingerprinted but not fingerprinted as part of the FBI system. So we'll be working on that as well. The other major update really was the physician health program, and getting rid of the fee for the PHP assessment and annual participation fee. There are still fees associated with getting drug screening or going and getting appointments, but trying to make that a little bit more affordable. We're still working behind the scenes on some of that funding for all of our license types as well. But as of now, as of 9/1, we are not charging that fee. If that was a barrier to anyone getting assistance from the health program, that shouldn't be a barrier anymore. We want them to get the help that they need, and we don't want the money to be the reason they don't do it. And that would conclude the ED report, unless there are questions for me.
PA
Yes, Ms. Gottschalk, yes.
Yes, I mean, I guess I could have waited for the PA report for it, but could you explain the aqueducts legislation that went through? Because it was my understanding that it included PAs in it.
Yeah, yes, I would not say that I am the subject matter expert on it. So if we need to phone a friend, we'll phone a friend on this with Mr.
Okay.
Freshour there.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
can jump
yeah,
in
go
if you
ahead.
need it, Chris. No, you can go ahead
No,
if you want to try.
no, you go ahead. I'll pass the baton.
Okay,
Go ahead.
and Miss Sloan can also join us. You'll hear a report from me a little bit later. Most of you know me, but for the new board members, my name's Scott Freshour. I'm the general counsel of the board. I've been with the board about 20 years. I started as a litigation attorney, became litigation manager, and then moved over to general counsel's office. And you will see me at every board meeting, or my staff, Miss Pajak, who's here today, Sarah Tuthill, Yvette Yarbrough. She's not with us today. She's on military assignment. She may be listening by phone, and Kamisha Williams. And we will be the legal advisors for the agency, but also for you all. And if you have questions, problems, want to know processes, procedures, we're the folks to talk to. You will see Wendy, Sarah, Kamisha, and Yvette. When you do informal settlement conferences, they'll act as your hearings counsel. But again, here as available resources, you'll get used to our faces. AccuDetox, what they did on that, Ms. Gottschalk, was the bill passed that expanded who could do AccuDetox. Now, AccuDetox is 5 points in the ear. It was, prior to the legislation, limited to nurses and certain other practitioners that could do it, including physicians, including acupuncturists. And this expanded it to a number of different licensed professional counselors, included USPAs. And what it did was it expanded the people that can do this, but they have to get trained. We have to certify them, and then they can treat. It used to be for smoking cessation, weight control, and now it's been expanded for other mental health issues, physical pain, emotional trauma, or physical trauma. And again, it's an adjunct or an ancillary treatment to other forms of treatment. So it was basically an expansion of who could do it, but you still have to be trained and you still have to be certified. And we at the medical board do the certification. And then they have to renew every 3 years with some training in order to be able to do it. And there are a number of training courses throughout the state that are available that you can take. And once you take that, then you can apply and get certified to do AccuDetox. But again, it's 5 points in the ear, and depending on what you're treating, how you treat or what points you treat within the ear.
Mr. Freshour, one thing I would add to that, and it's kind of a big one for you guys, is that this legislation did eliminate the supervision aspect for this type of treatment. So previously, it needed to be supervised by a physician or an acupuncturist in order for anyone else to do it. And this bill did eliminate that requirement. So not only are you guys included in it to be able to do it now, but there's not a supervision requirement either.
Thank you. I had one other question, but I'll wait until your legislative thing. Update.
Okay. Well, we can, I don't know if, yeah, Ms. Lynn will have an item on agenda item 6 if you want to stay for that one. Or you can ask it now. It's up to you, Ms.
Okay, I just had another question was about the FSMB, the infusion clinic that they created, that task force with PAs, nursing board, and the pharmacy board. I was just wondering if there was any update on that or if there's anything about that.
I don't have any update on that, but I don't know if Mr. Palazzola or Mr. Freshour may have any insights on that in particular.
Yeah, it is something that we are looking at. We've talked a little bit about whether or not it might make sense to do outreach with the Board of Nursing, obviously your board. It's still kind of in the preliminary stages. As you may know, we are going through a rule review right now where General Counsel's office and getting input from the rest of staff are working on all of our rules, including all delegation rules, nothing limited to just one thing or the other. And that rule process will obviously be shared with the boards as we go through that process and what we might do. We don't have anything formally in place in Texas right now with the pharmacy board, the board of nursing. Some of you may have seen in the in the emails that we did take a disciplinary action against a physician related to a clinic where a patient did die while receiving an infusion. The medical board suspended the doctor that was delegating. The delegate in that case was not licensed. It was not a PA or an APN. And so that we did take that disciplinary action. There was a statement made by Dr. Zafran as part of the TMB bulletin that kind of discussed this issue as well as other delegation issues. And so it is, I would say it's very much on our radar. The FSMB, it's very much on their radar. And as you brought up, Ms. Gottschalk, they are also working with other state boards and state pharmacy boards. I know the FDA is interested in this in terms of how, and the FTC as well, in terms of how these clinics are advertised, and the FDA in terms of what's actually inside these infusions. And so those are all things that are very much on our radar that we are looking at, but I don't have anything more concrete at this point.
Thank you so much.
All right.
That would complete agenda item 3.
Okay, so before I move on, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that Mr. McElhaney and also Dr. Rowan were in agreement to extend their appointment and continue to serve despite the fact that they could have rotated off. So we very much appreciate your willingness to continue your work on the board. Many of us have been on the board for many years, and through the work of COVID, it's kind of fractured our ability to see each other in person and have as much of a collegial feel. But I really very much appreciate everyone's willingness to kind of put up with the virtual and just kind of the not being able to meet in person, because many of us have never met other than through these screens. We've had at least what would be, I think, 6 or 7 new people have rotated on after we were no longer able to meet in person. So thank you guys for hanging in there with the process and still doing very robust work, despite the fact that we are not getting to know each other personally as much as we would if we were meeting in person. So thank you for staying on, Dr. Rowan and Mr. McElhaney. All right, so next, Dr. Brett, item number 4.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Sorry for the background noise. It's a busy airport today, but my name is Robert Brett. I'm a medical director for the board. I've been with the board, 11 years now. My primary function is to serve as liaison between the board and between our experts. These are licensed PAs and physicians and other licensees who help out reviewing cases to determine whether or not there's a violation of the standard of care. Oftentimes I'll come on and ask for additional volunteers. We're doing pretty well for PA experts. We don't need any more of those at this time, but we always need additional physician experts, particularly oncologists and physicians who are involved in interventions. So interventional radiologists and cardiologists. But if you know of anyone who you think would be willing to serve, they need to be in active practice. They need to be either licensed here or another state that's within the interstate medical licensure compact. Go ahead and forward any names on to me or to Mr. Carlton or to Laura Flaherty, and she can send them on. But again, I do want to thank you for your service to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Brett. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Brett while he's on the call? And all right, I think.
Hi, Dr. Brett. This is Dr. Ali. Can you ask a question?
Certainly.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much, and I apologize to board as well. I'm driving, as you know, that I'm driving to Waco, so it's a long drive. So I have muted myself. I hope no voice bothers you. So Dr. Pratt, my question is, I know a few intervention radiologists, and can you send me just a little bit outline that what will be their role, how often they will be engaged? So I am more than happy to connect you with them.
Oh, certainly. Yes, I greatly appreciate that. I've got a standard email that goes out that highlights the expectations and the reimbursement and all of that. I'll be sure to send it to you sometime today.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. And Dr. Brett, if you're in agreement, because you spoke to the idea of expert physician panel, is it okay if we also cross off number 16 on our agenda item since you spoke to that as well?
Yeah, we have none for your consideration.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Dr. Brett? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5, which I don't think we had anyone be able to attend the physician board meeting this time around. They meet more often than we do. They also meet over 2 days, really kind of a day and a half, I guess, sometimes. And for the new members, it is Laura Flaherty sent out a kind of a calendar of the next PA board meetings projected farther out, and then also the physician board meetings. And we, as a PA board member, have a seat at that table, more from an observation standpoint, but they welcome our input if we have input on whatever subject is germane to our board. And it's helpful if we can be there when possible in order to speak or even just acknowledge that the PA board is interested in wanting to be involved in their work. So what we ask is that people sign up so that they can be in attendance as a representative of the PA board, and then come back and report to the board what their experience is when they attend. So we understand if you can't, but at the same time, it's helpful when someone can. And if you sign up and it's your first time attending the physician board meeting, you and I can have a discussion ahead of that just to kind of understand typically what their board functions a little differently in their committee work and some other processes, but all in all, the same work is done. It's just divvied up differently. So otherwise that satisfies item number 5. So moving on to Ms. Sloan, item number 6.
Yes, good morning again, everyone. My name is Tori Sloan. I am the Director of Government Affairs and Communications for the board. So I serve as the primary liaison between the agency and the legislature. And my team also manages all of the media inquiries that come into the agency. We also craft and publish the TMB Bulletin and manage all of the agency's social media efforts. In addition to all of that, we also coordinate all of the outreach opportunities for the agency, which means that we work with the General Counsel's Office to provide educational presentations to future and current TMB licensees. So we'll go to medical schools, PA schools, and speak to their students about our licensure process and how to get a license. And then we also have a few CME opportunities that are sprinkled in for licensees as well. And we manage those efforts and try to organize those events and get the word out to all of our folks about the great work that the TMB is doing and how we can best serve them. A little bit about myself. I've been in this role with the board since 2019. Prior to my time here, I spent a handful of years at the Department of Motor Vehicles doing government relations work for them. And prior to that, I spent about 7 years working for various members of the Texas legislature in multiple roles. As far as the public information update goes, there's not too much to report on today, but I did want to remind you all to take a look at this latest edition of the TMB Bulletin if you haven't already done so. There's a lovely message in there from PA Crosby highlighting National PA Week, which occurred last month, I think October 6th through the 12th. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. Also, kind of going off of what Dr. Ali asked, in every bulletin, we have a write-up that's kind of our call for experts, and we work with Dr. Brett to get this information from him. So if you're ever curious about what specialties we're needing assistance with, obviously you can always reach out to Dr. Brett and he'll be happy to fill you in on that. But there's always a write-up in the bulletin about what we need help with. So you can always reference that and share that with your colleagues. Also in the bulletin, there are write-ups on all of your new colleagues on the PA board. So feel free to check that out if you didn't feel like you got enough from their own intros today. Since we do have new members, this is a really good opportunity to remind all of you about the best way to handle media inquiries you may get during your time with the board. This does happen from time to time, depending on kind of what the hot healthcare topics of the day are. So if a journalist or a researcher or really anyone reaches out to you asking you to comment on the business of the PA board, please don't respond until you've reached out to someone here at the board. That can be me, it could be Mr. Schneider, our communications officer, Mr. Freshour, or anyone else in the general counsel's office, or even Mr. Carlton himself. In most instances, we'll be able to navigate these situations without you even needing to be involved, which I imagine would be your preference anyways. So just please keep that in mind as you volunteer your time on the board. But that wraps up my report. I'm happy to take any questions though.
And I would like to just add something to Ms. Sloan's comment about if you get any inquiries. At times, you may also get inquiries from applicants or people who have pending matters before the board. You should not respond or engage with them. You should go ahead and send those to General Counsel, which would be Mr. Freshour, myself, Sarah Tuthill, Yvette Yarbrough, or Kamisha Williams. So thank you.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Sloan regarding her report? Very good. And I would add, if you guys just kind of thinking outside the box when we see something that may be kind of a repetitive thing, or we know that perhaps we see it as a reoccurring pitfall or something like that. These informational pieces that they do a lot of times stem from things that we know are happening, i.e. the infusion clinics and things like that, where we're trying to kind of tell our colleagues, hey, check yourself a little bit here, kind of watch out for some of these pitfalls that you may not be aware of, just as a kind of a forewarning that they're, because of the way that people are practicing, that they may fall into one of those pitfalls. And so if we see something like that, we have directed or asked for some type of addition to those newsletters to kind of help direct people in their practice to maybe stay out of some of those pitfalls. And so they have ways of helping us kind of communicate that sentiment and that concern to our colleagues to be able to learn from that ahead of time. All right, so if there's no other questions, we'll move on to item number 7 and Mr. Freshour.
Yes, and hello everyone again. So you've met me once, so now I'm going to, this is a standard item I do, and I usually start with saying to this board, thank you very much for not getting sued. The medical board has a tendency, as you all probably see, to get sued a whole lot. You all don't. Every once in a while you will, but most of the time it is after a case has gone through the entire legal process and there's an order that you've, taken as a board, and the licensee is not happy with the outcome that you gave, and so they can appeal it to district court. But it's a very long process, and you don't see many of those. The best thing about you all as a board is we don't see a lot of PAs that ever really get an order. I mean, it's pretty minimal given your population size. So thank you very much. The medical board, as I said, has a number of cases at all times. They're what we call substantial evidence appeals. Again, somebody doesn't like that the board took an order against them after they've gone all the way through the hearings process. And this process is not one after an informal settlement conference where they agree and settle. It's where they go all the way through a trial. The board imposes an action, and then they have a right to appeal to district court. And again, you don't see a lot of those, so I'm not going to belabor the process. But the board has a few of those. The medical board, almost without fail, the medical board's upheld, because all you've got to do is prove that there is a rational basis or a finding of a violation that supports the action that was taken. And that standard would apply to your board just like it applies to the medical board. So Litigation report, nothing really at that point, but I do want to pick up on Ms. Crosby, what you were just saying and what Ms. Pajak said. If you get inquiries or you have your colleagues, and Ms. Crosby and most of the members have heard this for 100 or 100,000 times from us. You are now the board. It doesn't matter how many times you tell somebody, I can't speak for the board, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, I can't, take any action as a board member. You are now the board member. So you have to be cognizant because you have a very dual role now, your professional role, but also your board role. And what that does, and what Ms. Pajak was hitting on and what Ms. Crosby was saying was, if you get an inquiry about what about this topic, and I think IV clinics is a hot topic right now. Somebody asks you, what is the board position? You tell them the board, I can't speak for the board. If the board has any position or any statements, look at the newsletter, go to the board meetings. If you have a concern, appear at a board meeting, make the public comment. You will also have applicants come to you and say, occasionally, oh, I'm having trouble with my license, or, can you help me with this? And at that, you just refer them to the licensure people. You refer them to us at General Counsel, because you don't want to get put in the position of, and I'll pick on somebody who we know. Well, Mr. Bowles told me if you did X, you did X, Y, and Z, that, the individual will get their license. Or if you did X, Y, and Z, they're probably not going to take an action against you. And if they approach you and say, hey, I've got a case that I've got to appear in front of the board, first thing you do is you stop them and say, I do not want to know about it. I do not want to hear about it. You need to wait for the board until your hearing. So again, common sense reminders. I don't want anyone to be insulted, but just be mindful of this. The other thing, and I am going to emphasize this, and you will hear it from me. You will hear it from Mr. Palazzolo. You will hear it from Ms. Crosby. You will hear it from Ms. Pajak. You will hear it from Ms. Tudhill. Board business is to be conducted here at the board. If you have an issue and you're like, boy, I'm looking at this case today, you don't pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. McElhaney, I was reading this and what do you think? Don't you think we ought to vote this way? No, no. And I don't mean to sound, school teachers. I don't want to sound condescending. It's just a very emphatic reminder. You have open meetings and you have open records, and they're very, very important. All of your business should take place here. Now, if you have an informal settlement conference, and again, you will be there, with Ms. Crosby and Ms. Gottschalk, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Bowles, Mr. Sauer, Dr. Rowan, you will be there with these folks until you get the hang of it. And there's always going to be two of you. If you all have an ISC, the time to talk about it is when you sit down with your hearings counsel at the time of the hearing. But if you have a question ahead of time, and Ms. Crosby and Ms. Gottschalk have both done this in the past, and it's perfectly appropriate. They're looking at a case and they start scratching their head going, what in the world is this about? Or I don't understand the procedure. What you do then is, if that happens, you pick up the phone or you get on the email and you email me, you email Wendy Pajak, Sarah Tuthill, Kamisha Williams, or Yvette Yarborough, because we're your hearings counsel. The attorney who sends the notice from Chris's department, Amy Swanholm's department, that's the staff attorney, they're the prosecutor. You don't talk to them about the facts of the case. You talk to, I'm going to say us, the general counsel's office, because we're your legal advisors, okay? So there's, for lack of a better term, there's two legal departments, if you will, in the PA board. There's the prosecutor's office, and that's under Chris and Amy. And then there's the legal advisors to you all, and that is the general counsel's office. That's me, that's Wendy, that's Sarah, that's Kamisha, that's Yvette. So just be mindful of that. The final thing, and I'm sorry I'm taking a little while today, Ms. Crosby, but I think it's real important just to say this, and I know you've all had training, but I think it's always good to hear. If you get an inquiry from a newspaper, hey, I would like to know about this, or answer this, or I'm asking for these records, send them to General Counsel's office immediately, because we handle all the open records requests, and we get hundreds of those a year. So be mindful of that. And the last thing is, use your TMB emails for all of your board business. Do not use personal phones, because what can happen is, if you start using your personal phones for board business and we get an open records request, a lot of it's confidential, a lot of it will be protected, but not all of it. And if you have board business on your personal phone, you're going to get a call from me, or you're going to call from Kamisha and say, and I'm going to pick on a new board member, and just, this is a random, I can see some faces. So Miss, you may get a call from us, Miss Corbett, saying, we just got an open records request, and you said you have something in your personal phone. So you've got to pull all those records out of your personal phone and send them us to look at. And if the requestor thinks that you didn't give us something, there is a possibility, although remote, but this is not to scare you, they can basically look into your personal phone and your emails and your texts. Okay. And again, this is not to scare you, but it's to remind you of the importance of keeping your board stuff here and all your other stuff over here. Okay. And just be mindful of that, and check your email boxes. And Laura is very, very nice, but she will bug the heck out of you if you're not answering emails. And she's always very nice, even when she's bugging you. Probably not as nice as Chris or I would be. It's like, will you answer your phone, please? What the heck is wrong here? Laura will be, could you please? Would you please? But again, in all seriousness, we just want to work and help you, but just be mindful of that. And if you have any new question or any questions, and particularly for you new as board members, feel free to call us up. I mean, Wendy will be glad to talk to you and walk you through just things in general, or Sarah will, or Kamisha, or myself. We're very helpful, but we're also the ones that are going to say, no, you can't do that. So, and we've done that before. It's not always well received by y'all, but I think y'all understand. Thank you very much, Ms. Crosby. I appreciate the latitude.
Thank you. So I'll add just a few things to that. My kind of standard response when people call me and they're concerned about a complaint that they may have going on about them, or a board related issue, is I typically say there are processes for these kinds of things. Trust them, they work, and contact the board with any more specific questions. Just so they know that I don't doubt that the board does good work and that it will play itself through, and I encourage them to be patient. So the other thing, when I contact someone for the board, before I go into this long issue related to the question, I say, are you still the person who does that? Because as Chris said earlier, there's been a lot of kind of swapping, and those of us that have been on the board for quite some time, sometimes because we only do work for the board every couple of months, we get confused about who does what, where, how, and when. And so maybe if I can just direct board staff to, when you have kind of some of these folks that kind of get more final in their role, and you have your full complement of staff, that maybe we all get kind of a directory, so to speak, with names and kind of contact information, and maybe just a little blurb about what their role is, especially for the new board members. But that way, we have a great complement of staff that are eager to help us do our work. And sometimes I don't know that we understand that we can utilize them in all the ways that we can. So if we can do that, as you guys work to kind of fill all those positions. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Freshour? All right, so I see Dr. Doyle is ready and available. Thank you, Dr. Doyle, for joining the meeting. We'll hand off to you on item number 8.
All right, well, I'm Emily Doyle. I'm a forensic psychiatrist by training, and I'm the medical director for the Texas Physician Health Program, which is called the Texas PHP. The Texas PHP will confidentially monitor licensees under all the licensees under the Texas Medical Board, including PAs, who have a potentially impairing condition. We monitor substance use disorders, mental health disorders, other physical limitations. And when somebody is being monitored with us, they sign an agreement, which is like a contract, usually for a set amount of time. And we have them go through certain treatment and support that will help keep them unimpaired or get them back to being unimpaired if they have been out of work and impaired, and also just reports and things that we need in order to be able to monitor whether they are impaired. When somebody signs an agreement and then they're in violation of their agreement, I'll present those cases to the Texas PHP Governing Board, and the Governing Board will refer those cases to this committee. The Disciplinary and Ethics Committee will then make a decision. Usually the Governing Board will send over a recommendation that they either accept the referral, which would mean that case would be referred to for further investigation and potentially for disciplinary action, or that they return the referral to Texas PHP, in which case we would just resume confidential monitoring. So there's really, for those cases that I present, the actions are for this board to either accept the referral or return it to Texas PHP. So there's one case in your packet today that we brought to our Governing Board. They're always numbered because they're still confidential at this point. This is PHP case 14-0281. There's a description in the case review. I'm always available to answer any questions you have about what happened in the case. In that particular case, the Texas PHP Governing Board is recommending that you return the case to Texas PHP. So that would be our item under 8A.
This would be the first item that would require a vote and a motion. And so, like as Dr. Doyle just explained, that the information is here. That case file being a 2014 is an indicator those first 2 years of the year. So this individual's been with the program, I guess, 9 years, off and on maybe. But there's a write-up there, and the motion would be to either accept the recommendation of the PHP and return the file to PHP, or leave the file with PHP, or to decline that recommendation and make a motion that the case be returned to the Physician Assistant Board for an investigation. Again, you heard the recommendation of the PHP Executive Board is that they keep the case. And then, of course, if you have questions about the case before anybody makes a motion or votes, Dr. Doyle is here for those.
Yeah, and just to be clear, while these providers are working their way through the system, if the PHP thought that this person, I think by and large, it's making sure that people have a path either continuing on in practice or back to practice when they have one of these issues that falls under the PHP umbrella. So it goes without saying that if there was something more egregious that they felt like they would act on, they wouldn't keep them in a plan for 9+ years and not expect that they would continue to have a path back to practice or safe practice. So for the new members, that's something to consider, because you look on the surface and say, wow, why is this person still going through this process? It's because it's what they need to for their well-being and for the continuation of safe practice and whatnot. So any other questions for Dr. Doyle or regarding that case? It looks like PA Gottschalk.
Yes, I was reading through it and I saw that even just this year, there were quite a few missed tests, positive tests. What is the criteria to send them back for us to look at them? At what point is your red line that they need to come back to us?
Yeah, there's a couple different red lines. One of them is actually item 8B there, the emergent referral path. And so anybody that I have suspicion is a continuing threat to the public through their practice, those get referred directly, sort of bypassing this committee because there's some urgency to taking action on their license or having urgent investigation. So those are emergent referrals. So anybody that's a continuing threat through practice gets referred that way. The people that we present here, typically the recommendation comes from, are we able to bring them into compliance with their agreement? Or is this something where we're not going to be able to effectively monitor them? There's no way for us to be able to say this person is safe to be practicing, either because they're refusing some aspect of the treatment or some aspect of the monitoring, or if sometimes there are other ways that they can violate drug testing policies, sometimes trying to skirt issues in ways that, we don't have investigations departments or anything like that. We're doing clinical monitoring. So when somebody's trying to, bypass some of those things, those are sort of cases where they're not appropriate for us to be monitoring. We just can't effectively monitor them. And those are the ones that would be a recommendation for you all to accept their referral, and they would no longer be with the Texas PHP.
Are they going to their Caduceus meetings now? Because I saw there were quite a few missed in the last year.
Yeah, so this is a pattern that sort of comes and goes. This particular participant, after we met in July and went over sort of making up meeting attendance, they made up some meetings in August. They made all their meetings in September, and then they got behind a little bit in October again. So this is sort of goes back and forth, but we really try to encourage the meeting attendance, both as a mechanism for them to get support, but also a good measure for us to see how engaged they are in recovery. In this particular case, this participant doesn't have a substance use disorder. And so there are other types of peer support that are also helpful besides, AA or Caduceus meetings. This participant we're monitoring for a mental health issue. It just happens that substance use can exacerbate that issue. And so the recommendation from the treating doctor in this case is that we monitor to make sure that there is abstinence from substances that could exacerbate the mental health issue.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, any other questions or discussions on this recommendation from the PHP? Okay. I'm going to mute for just a minute. All right, fire trucks going by or ambulances or something. So that being said, if there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion on the recommendation from the PHP.
Yeah, I move to accept the recommendation to keep this particular case to remain with the PHP.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bowles. We have a first. Can we have a second?
This is Sauer.
Dr. Rowan, second.
Okay, looks like PA Sauer may have beaten you, Dr. Rowan. We'll catch you next time. Any discussion about the motion as it is on the floor? Okay, hearing no need for discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Late aye.
Okay, any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, so thank you, Dr. Doyle. The motion passes. You had another portion of your agenda item related to the testing results.
Sure. So the item B there, report on emergent referrals. We had no emergent referrals. And then item C is our reports, the program activity report that you have there. I think maybe this is a good time to introduce Mr. Bernardo, who's our program director. He can introduce himself and tell you about the program report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rui Bernardo. I'm the program director at the Texas Physician Health Program. Been with the Texas PHP for about 4.5 years, going on 5 years in total. I worked for the medical board for about 15.5 years before I came over to this program. So there's 2 reports there in your backup materials. The program activity report, if you have any questions, essentially what this is just a summary. If you go through the report, it's only 3 pages. It basically has a breakdown of, for example, on the first page, a current caseload. It goes through and indicates how many participants we have in our program for the last quarter, so fiscal year 2023 quarter 4. Then on the same page, the next category is the number of individuals who are being tested by our program under the drug testing program. And there's a breakdown by license types. You'll see there's a breakdown of how many physician assistants are in the program, and also how many are being drug tested and how many are not. Then it also goes down the bottom of the first page, indicates how many total referrals we had for the last quarter for physician assistants. You'll see there at the bottom of page 1, we had 2 PAs that were referred over in fiscal year 23 quarter 4. And then you can go through and look at how many of those were self-referrals or referrals from the board. Lastly, on page number 3, which is historically the most important, or gets the most attention from the board, especially from the Texas Medical Board, is how many pending referrals we have. And you'll see there that as of 9/22/23, when we last generated this report, we had 3 PAs that were pending referrals. Those are individuals who either have self-referred to the board or been to the program, I should say, or been referred by the board and who are basically in a pending status. That's kind of a moving number, but that's essentially what this report is. Well, we had 14 total referrals that were pending in September when we generated the report. And the other report is the drug screening quarterly report that Dr. Doyle puts together. She can obviously answer questions about that, but these are the 2 backup items that we tend to put together for our governing board, and obviously present them to the medical board and all their subboards accordingly.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Bernardo. Do you have any comments, Dr. Doyle, on your drug screening report?
No comments on the drug screening report. We have been trying to look at changes to our drug testing program to see if there are ways that we can make it more effective, make it more convenient, less of a burden to our participants. And one of the changes that we recently made was to expand the testing and check-in hours, which, even though it's a small change, it's something that the participants have given us good feedback. It's been very meaningful in terms of making it more workable into their busy schedules.
Very good. All right. So any questions or comments regarding the PHP? All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Tuthill.
Ms. Crosby, before we leave this agenda item, I just wanted to chime in really quickly and add some information on the emergent referrals. There were none to report to you this meeting, but thought this would be a good training point for the new members and a good reminder for everyone else. The emergent referrals, those are reports of participants that have been referred to the medical board by PHP based upon information that indicates that participants' continued practice in that particular area of licensure represents a continuing threat to the public health and welfare. The medical board and PA board has delegated the authority to the executive director to accept those referrals in between board meetings to ensure, obviously, the safety of the public, ensure the board's ability to quickly and efficiently address those particular cases. And then those will be reported to you at the next board meeting. And it'll just be a report. It doesn't require any action on your part. It'll be a report for you to review. So thanks for letting me just add in that brief training point. If anybody has any questions on that, happy to answer. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Doyle.
Ms. Tuthill, could you speak to your role on the board and just tell the new members about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So yes, as Scott and Wendy mentioned, I'm an assistant general counsel, part of the general counsel team, along with Kamisha Williams, Yvette Yarborough, Wendy Pajak, and Scott Freshour, here to advise the board during board meetings. We conduct the informal settlement conferences. We are here for general assistance and questions related to your roles as board members. I've been with the board since 2009, started in litigation, worked there for 3 years. So I have a good basic background in litigation, how we run things there, and then have been in the general counsel's office from right around 2012. So happy to meet everyone and look forward to speaking with you and then meeting the new members personally in the future.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much again for your time.
All right. Any other questions or work for the PHP? All right. Thank you, Dr. Doyle and Mr. Bernardo, for your continued work. All right, so we'll move on to item number 9, Mrs. Hines. Oh, there you go, Rhea.
Good morning, everybody. We actually don't have any licensee requests for this particular agenda item, but very quickly, so I can do my introduction. Hello to everyone I haven't met. My name is Ray Hines. I'm over the registration department at the agency. I've been with the agency for a little over 20 years at this point, most of that time in registrations. As it directly relates to the PAs, registrations is going to entail your biennial renewals, your continuing education, the continuing education audits, verifications, things like that. Our registrations department also includes the call center as well as the physician licensure compact team. And then we will also be the home for the new team that's going to deal with the NPDB continuous queries and the criminal justice information that we get back from the newly fingerprinted licensees. So we wear a lot of hats and cover a lot of things. Generally, how I explain it to the new board members is if you have a question about something and it is not related to an application, the person doesn't have already has a license, so they're not an applicant, and it's not an enforcement issue, they're not under investigation, and they don't have problems in that area, somewhere in the middle, it's probably us. And if it's not us, we probably know where it needs to go. So you can ask us those questions. But as far as this particular item on the agenda, licensee requests, they don't come up very often. What you'll see here generally, if we have something, is, for an example, a physician assistant who wants to come out of retirement and go back to an active status, but it's been a while since they've been in practice. Those are the kind of things that we'll bring for you to review. But again, that doesn't happen very often. And as usual, we do not have any actions for you on this particular agenda item today.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hines. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Hines and her role within the TMB or the PA board? All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, there's nobody appearing today under that item that I know of, but that would lead us to Ms. Unterborn for item number 11.
Yes. Hi, my name is Grace Unterborn. I oversee the licensure department. I have been with the Texas Medical Board for 13 years next month, always in the licensure department. And we process all the licensure applications for the various license types the board regulates and then issues those licenses depending on the license type every 2 weeks, once a month, every single week, or once a quarter. So as Ms. Crosby mentioned, we don't have any licensure applicants that have been referred to today's board meeting, but you'll typically see me at these meetings presenting on any PA licensure applicants that a determination could not be made either at my level or the executive director's level, and it needs to be reviewed by the entire PA board members. So fortunately for PA applicants, they definitely tell us what we need to know. They answer the questions very well. They're very forthcoming with information. So typically we don't have a lot of PA applicants that are referred. So for item number 11, discussion, recommendation, and possible action regarding proposed orders offered by the executive director. Today, we do have 2 proposed agreed orders that were offered and accepted by each applicant, and this does need a motion for approval, please.
All right, so in reviewing those cases, if somebody has any concern regarding those cases or the recommendation from Ms. Unterborn or Brent, Mr. Carlton, technically, then you can ask to pull the case for discussion. But if no one has any concern or questions regarding the case, then we can entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the executive director.
I move to accept the recommendation of the executive director on these 2 cases.
Okay, thank you, P. Gottschalk. We have a first, we have a second.
Second.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hughes. Okay, so we have a first, we have a second. Any discussion on the matter? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Hi, this is Dr. Ali. Somehow the video is not going back, so I just want to say I'm listening everything. So, and I know I was told for vote videos need to be up, but please take my voice.
Yeah, I think thank you, Dr. Lee. I think we have a quorum without you, so we're glad you're able to hear us, and you can certainly ask questions if you have a question about anything that comes up. But yeah, if we can't get your camera working, you just don't vote, if that's okay. And we have a quorum without you, but you can still ask any questions that you have or make any comments.
Okay, I will sign in again with the video. So I think it will work well. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so all opposed say nay. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Unterborn. Okay, so moving on to your next item, number 12.
Yes, this is the report on physician assistant licenses that are issued by board staff. The list of licenses that have been issued since the last PA board meeting on July 14th, 2023 are there for you to review, and it does include the list of the PA applicants that will be issued their license today following the board meeting. This is just a report, so there's no motion needed.
Thank you. All right, so if there's no questions on the report, we'll go on to item number 13, Ms. Unterborn.
This is the report on physician assistant licensure process statistics. So in Q1 for fiscal year 2023, there were 320 PA licenses issued in an average processing time of 6 days. In the current Q1 for fiscal year 2024, as of October 24th, 2023, 248 PA licenses have been issued in an average processing time of 5 days. Since this is the first board meeting following the end of a fiscal year, I do include some comparative stat purposes. So in fiscal year 2022, there were a total of 1,109 PA licenses that were issued. And in this most current past quarter, fiscal year 2023, there were a total of 1,166 PA licenses that were issued. Again, this is just a report, so there's no motion needed.
Yeah, and just as a point of reference, Ms. Unterborn, in statute, from the time that the license application is fully completed, there's kind of a goal that license has to be processed, correct?
Yes, so once an application completes the screening phase where the applicant has submitted all the required documents, they are assigned to a licensure analyst where those documents are reviewed, eligibility is determined, and then they are put on the next licensing list to be licensed. We do license PAs at the end of every month. So that does help to have the PA get their license so that they don't necessarily have to pay for the temporary license to be issued, since we do license those practitioners more frequently. So,
yeah, and the goal is that's assuming that their license is entirely complete and that there are no red flags that have to be investigated. And so what I would say is you guys as a department have become increasingly steadily very efficient in processing that. A lot of criticism comes when people think their license is being delayed or held up, as if you guys are not doing your work, when really it has more to do with maybe a portion of their license not being complete. So I don't entirely speak to those specifics. When people message me with concerns, I pass them on to Ms. Unterborn and her department. But typically, just as a reference, that's usually the holdup. It's not that the department is not doing their due diligence. And so thank you guys for continuing to be very efficient and responsive as well.
Thank you very much for the compliment, Ms. Crosby. If any board members do get inquiries or just have questions in general about the licensure process, please feel free to contact me directly and I can provide that information to you.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Unterborn? Okay, all right, thank you, Ms. Unterborn. All right, Ms. Hines, again, you're up.
The agenda item 14, this is just a report on renewal statistics or registration statistics for the PAs. This is for the last quarter of FY23, and there's a comparison there for the last quarter of FY22. We're pretty on track. We did see a small decrease in the number of PAs that are canceled for non-renewal, so that's always good news. We did see a bit of an increase in the number of PAs who are going into the retired status, either the regular or the emeritus retired status. But overall, we're pretty on track. I did add, just for some more recent live data, as of October the 31st, we had 12,643 active PA licenses in the state. Again, this is just a report, also no action needed, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Very good. Any discussion for Ms. Hines regarding this report? Ultimately, I asked her to start doing this report, or directed staff to start doing it, because we just kind of had some ideas of, okay, we're licensing this many people and people are coming into our state. How many people are just leaving the profession or deciding not to renew their license just as a point of interest? And so it's kind of helpful, I think, to realize we just licensed about 1,199, and we lost, for one reason or another, about 376. So, we're certainly still gaining PAs in our state. It's a great state to practice in legislatively, regulatorily, and I think that's borne out in these statistics. So, any questions for Ms. Hines? Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Hines. Moving on to item number 15, Mr. Palazzolo.
Sure. And getting back to this one. So these are the reports regarding enforcement, basically. And the first one is the enforcement report. I did put in the enforcement report for all of the agency. In the interim reports, I kind of focus more on the physician assistant statistics, but because this was the final report for for fiscal year 23, I went ahead and put in the full report from the end of August 31st of 23. You'll get the first quarter report for 24 at the next meeting. We're really looking for on this first report is trends. Are there any red flags that pop up? This is kind of a vital signs for the enforcement departments. And you'll kind of see on here what our current investigations are, what the current cases in legal are, what percentage of cases are at SOA, which is where cases end up if they don't resolve after investigation, the complaints we receive, how many we open on jurisdictional not filed and non-jurisdictional complaints. So the non-jurisdictional complaints, the ones that don't involve a licensee or don't involve a licensee that still has a license. The jurisdictional non-filed are ones that have kind of been reviewed by either a physician or an attorney for the board who've said, okay, it's jurisdictional, but there's not enough evidence of a violation to open an investigation, to file the investigation. No red flags that pop out to me over here. You will notice when you get down to the ISC section that we are doing fewer ISCs overall. That is mostly a result of the pre-investigation process, where when we get a complaint, we take some of the administrative complaints, failure to release records, mostly minor violations, advertising violations, and take them out of the investigative process altogether and issue a warning letter to the licensee, give them an opportunity to respond. A lot of times they respond and we end up fully dismissing it because we don't think there was any violation at all. However, in other times we say, okay, they've corrected the violation. And so in those situations, we would kind of count the warning letter against them. So basically the warning letter is a one and done. You can't get a second one. So if you don't release the medical records to the patient, you get a warning letter, and a second patient comes along, you can't get another warning letter. But going through that process, we have been able to reduce the total number of ISCs and let the ISCs focus on things that are less administrative and more patient care, impairment, convictions, that kind of thing. You kind of also track the decisions that the different boards are taking and how many orders, how many remedial plans in a fiscal year. Those orders are on the bottom here for the physician assistant. You kind of see them as you scroll down. And again, you're looking at fiscal year versus fiscal year. Has there been a big drop off? We are kind of revising a little bit the way we count some of these. And so you will see a little bit of variation if you look back at 2019 versus today. We're trying to kind of standardize this a little bit. And so the data, the nice thing about having 5 years of historical data, if we make a change and we keep tracking it, we can see how it's impacting the licensees and the board and board staff. So again, I don't see anything on here that's a red flag. The biggest change is the drop in number of ISCs, and we know why that's happening. But if there are any questions about this report. Okay. The second report is a warning letter report, and you don't have any this meeting. We didn't have any for physician assistants since the last board meeting. But obviously, if we do issue one of those warning letters, like I was saying, we do count it against the licensee. You do get a report of all of those. The third item is a report regarding the criminal cases that are reviewed. So several years ago, the legislature amended Chapter 53. We used to open complaints when somebody got arrested, and then we would just kind of babysit the complaint until there was an outcome. That wasn't the most efficient way to handle that. And so we've kind of looked at those as also part of the pre-investigation process. And we review some of these complaints. This is for all license types. I promise you didn't have 330 physician assistants arrested last year. That would be a pretty shocking number. So this is for basically all the reports we got. Again, fiscal year 21 and 23 are very similar. Fiscal year 22 was an increase because the criminal courts were recovering from COVID, so they were catching up, clearing out a lot of cases. You kind of see the percentages. We have cases that are Class C misdemeanors. That would be like public intox, disorderly conduct. We don't do anything with those. We just note that we got them, and that's it. If it looks like there might have been a drug or alcohol involved, but there's nothing that's going to rise to the level of a temporary suspension, we do provide them information about the PHP program. Just give them an information, and I think some of those have ended up enrolling in PHP, which is the intention. For cases where we have a little bit more of a concern of an impairment, we do refer those to the physician health program. That's a little bit more formal process. And then for a lot of these, what we do is we just send them a letter. Says, we're aware you've been arrested and you need to update us when it's over. And then we kind of monitor those folks to make sure that if they plead guilty or are found guilty, we come back to them. If it looks like it might pose a continuing threat or something that might lead to a temporary suspension, those do go straight to investigations. They become priority 1 investigations. They usually get assigned to an attorney to evaluate them by Amy Swanholm's folks. She's the litigation director, and her folks will review those for a temporary suspension at the same time. And then in some cases, if it's a criminal conviction for a misdemeanor that's not connected to practice or something like that, they will get just a consent order that they do have to sign agreeing to comply with the terms and conditions of their criminal conviction. You got all the background data there as well, but that first page, the fiscal year data, is kind of the overview of that process. The next report is a copy of the cases that are over 1 year old. We are required to report on these. We report these to the legislature every year. The good news is for the physician assistants, there's only 4. One of those is going to have or just had an ISC about a week ago. The others are still fairly recent ISCs. And then one of these is going to have a final hearing at SOA shortly. I think at the end of this month. So these are all getting resolved. They're in the process of being resolved. Again, that's in Ms. Swanholm's department where we track those for the litigation cases. You did not have those last 2 items. You did not have any temporary suspensions or automatic orders for PAs since the last meeting, and did not have any rehearing requests. That would be somebody who has gotten a final order after going through SOA, and they write you a memo or a brief or something saying, here's why everything is wrong and you should just do something else or nothing at all. You don't have any of those this meeting either. That would cover all the reports in agenda item 15. So if there are any questions on those, otherwise.
All right. Hearing no questions, We already attended to item number 16 earlier, so we're moving on to item number 17. And Mr. Palazzola and Miss PA Clay Bowles will work on that agenda for me.
Certainly, and Mr. Bowles, I think Mr. McElhaney did have to step away. He did say he would try to be back on.
I'm actually back in, yeah.
You're already back. Well, there you go. That makes it easier then. So yes, normally what we do with these is there are some board members that have been assigned to the Discipline and Ethics Committee. Mr. Bowles is the chair of that subcommittee, and there are cases that are kind of assigned to each board member. Just because it's assigned to a board member doesn't mean that other board members can't ask questions or pull cases, whatever you need to do. We usually do have the board member that the case is assigned to make the motion for the cases that are assigned to them. And what they can do is, before they make that motion, if they want to discuss one of the cases assigned to them with the board, we would say, pull that one for discussion, and we'll discuss it. Sometimes we can discuss that in open session with the public observing the conversation, but all of these are confidential investigations, so we never want to say a respondent's name or a complainant's name or share any information publicly that might identify the patient or the complainant or the licensee. So if it can be discussed without giving away too much information, and if you're getting close, somebody's going to tell you to stop. Somebody in general counsel or myself or Mr. Carlton when he's here, one of your fellow board members. If it feels like we're getting a little too close to sharing information like that publicly, we'll stop and go into executive session. But these cases, just for the new board members, they're broken down by board member. They're broken down by category. So the J&F, you just heard me talk about it with the enforcement report. These are cases that were reviewed by either a physician or an attorney working for board staff who have decided that, okay, we have jurisdiction over this complaint if there was evidence of a violation, but they have recommended that we dismiss it. Those recommendations come to you for kind of approval. And there are none assigned to Mr. McElhaney. He has the first group of cases. He has none in that category. The filed investigations, lack of evidence files, these are cases that did go through the investigative process. And at the close of that process, the investigations department is recommending that they be dismissed for lack of evidence rather than being referred to the litigation department. And there are a couple in that category. And if you don't mind, Mr. McElhaney, I'll go ahead and finish the explanation and then come back to that, or Mr. Bowles, if you want to jump in too. Item C is ISC panel dismissals. So these would be cases that have come to litigation, had an ISC, and the ISC panel recommended that the cases be dismissed. Again, the ISC panel dismissals are recommendations that are subject to ratification by the board. And so the board members kind of assigned to look at the ones assigned to them. But again, anybody can ask questions about them. And if you don't agree with the dismissal, there are some options that we can discuss if we get to one of those. Finally, litigation department dismissal. So these are cases that came to the litigation department, and then Ms. Swanholm and her attorneys have looked at it and said, we don't think we can prove this case, and we're recommending dismissal. Or maybe the respondent submitted a response and the consultant that reviewed the case said, you know what, after reviewing this response, I don't think there's a violation anymore. Those go through Mr. Carlton for him to approve as well, sign off on, and then they come to you all for final approval. Again, it's a recommendation. If you have questions or don't want to dismiss the case, we can discuss those options as well. And so this is the point at which we would go to the cases assigned to Mr. McElhaney and ask him if there are any he would like to pull. Mr. Bowles, do you want to drive? Do you want me to drive? What different, do you have a preference?
Either way is fine. Just to kind of clarify, these are, again, cases that have been recommended for dismissal. And so, we will look at them and see if there's anything there that we would want to pull for further discussion. Non-standard of care cases obviously are to some committee members, not PAs. Standard of care cases obviously are to the physician assistants on the board. So yeah, I'm ready to proceed with Mr. McElhaney.
Yeah, there's no cases that I'd like to pull. I'd like to make a motion to dismiss case 23-1384, as well as case 23-5286.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve for dismissal as recommended. Do I have a by Mr. McElhaney? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Not sure who was first. I heard Ms. Gottschalk, so
Well,
we can
Dr.
go with
Rowan
you.
and I are always in competition. It
Or
seems.
Dr. Rowan, he's not going to get one today, so we'll go with we'll go with Dr. Rowan as a second. How's that? We'll give him one. Any discussions?
Second, so that I stay relevant.
Any discussions on these? If not, we'll go for a vote. All in favor of approving for dismissal as recommended, say aye.
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 All opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. McElhaney.
Next set of cases are assigned to you, Mr. Bowles. So, yeah, I could do that. And so, Mr. Bowles, do you have any cases that are assigned to you that you would like to pull for discussion?
I do not. And so at this time, I will make a motion to approve for dismissal the cases 23-0065 and 23-0073.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it again.
Dr. Rowan, all right. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed say nay. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, so Mr. Bull or PA Bowles motion passes. You want to take back over, Mr. Bowles?
Sure. And next is cases assigned to Ms. Gottschalk.
Yes, I don't have any cases that I want to pull. And so I'll make a motion to dismiss case 23-2602, 23-3691, and 23-4774 under the filed investigated LOE files.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve for dismissal as recommended. Do I have a second?
This is Sauer. I'll second.
PA Sauer is the second. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor of dismissing these cases as recommended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries. We
And
have
then
any cases?
I
for
have
Dr.
two
Ho?
more. I have
Okay.
a few more. So
Okay.
I have two under the ISC panel
Oh, yes.
dismissals, number 23-0593 and 23-0526 that are recommended for dismissal. And I make a motion to do so.
So we have a motion to approve for dismissal as recommended on the ISCs. Do I have a second?
This is Sauer. I'll second.
PA Sauer with the second. Any discussions on these? If not, all in favor of accepting for dismissal as recommended, say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? And the motion carries. And is that all of your cases, Ms. Gottschalk? I'm looking in the.
That's all of them.
Okay, and then we have cases assigned to Dr. Ho. Mr. Palazzoa, is he? No, none? Okay.
None for Dr. Ho.
And then finally, Dr. Rowan?
Yeah, I've got a couple of cases under SOC. I have no concerns with them and make a recommendation to dismiss case 23-3263 and 23-4537.
Okay, have a motion to approve for dismissal as recommended. Do we have a second?
Second.
PA Todd with the second. Any discussions on these? If not, all in favor of approving for dismissal as recommended, say aye.
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 All opposed? All opposed? And any abstentions? All right. Motion carries.
I also have two cases for the ISC recommendation for dismissal. Case 230508 and 230606. I have no concerns and again recommend motion for dismissal.
So we have a motion to approve for dismissal as recommended by Dr. Rowan. Do we have a second?
This is Sauer. I'll second.
PA Sauer with the second. Any discussions? Seeing none, all of those in favor of approving for dismissal as recommended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And I do have to abstain from one of the two cases, so motion carries. I think that is.
Yes, but could you clarify, Mr. Bowles, which case you were abstaining from?
Yes, I have to abstain from case number 23-0508. And I think that completes item number 17.
Yes, sir, it does.
Very good. So I'll poll the group. Sometimes I just have a drudge on. It's maybe my surgery history or my family medicine bladder that speaks in my ear. Anyone needing a break for just a moment, or is everybody willing to continue to work on with the agenda? Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so on to item number 18. Dr. Brett, there doesn't seem to be anything under that agenda item. So then moving on to Mr. Palazzolo at number 19.
So item 19, these are appeals. So these are cases that were approved for dismissal by the board and the complainant disagreed with the outcome. The board rules do allow a complainant a one-time opportunity to appeal. And these are also assigned to individual board members to kind of review, but again, they're for everyone. We do usually ask the board member that they're assigned to make the motion, but anyone can jump in with questions or anything like that. So we do have under 19A jurisdictional. So these are complaints that did go through an investigative process and were recommended for dismissal and approved for dismissal by the board. And now you have an appeal. The first one is 22-7107. And that one was assigned to you, Mr. Bowles, if you would like to pull it for discussion or make a motion.
Yeah, and just for clarification, the motion on these, if you want to deny the appeal, would be I move to deny the appeal. If you feel there's enough information to accept the appeal to turn it back for further investigation, it would be to accept the appeal. So for my case, I move that we deny the appeal under 22-7107.
This is Sauer. I'll second.
Okay, so first by PA Bowles and then second by Sauer, PA Sauer. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, I'll turn it back over to PA Bowles.
Sure, and under the same heading, we have a similar file assigned to Ms. Goschalk.
Yes, I make a motion to deny the appeal for 23-1627.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the appeal as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Todd. Any discussion on this? If not, all of those in favor of denying the appeal, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. And then I don't see any under the legal files tab, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so moving on to JNF files, we have Dr. Rowan first.
Yes, I have one case, 23-7029, and I make a motion to deny request for the appeal.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the appeal by Dr. Dr. Rowan, do we have a second?
Yep.
Mr.
Second.
Todd with the second. Do we have any discussions on this? Okay. All of those in favor of denying the appeal, say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? And the motion carries. I will make a motion under mine for item 23-7298 to deny the appeal.
Okay, so PA Bowles has a motion. Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
PA Gottschalk beat Dr. Rowan. All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any, all in favor or all opposed, say nay. And any abstentions? Okay, Mr. PA Bowles, your motion carries.
Okay, and we don't, it doesn't look like we have anything under non-jurisdictional, so.
I have one under jurisdictional, the
Right.
J and F.
Let's go back to that.
It's number 237785.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I make a motion to deny the appeal for 237785.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Gottschalk, PA Gottschalk, to deny the appeal. Do I have a second? Motion by PA Todd, second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor of denying the appeal, say aye.
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 All those opposed? And any abstentions? Motion carries.
Very good. I think that completes your item under item number 17, all your work under item number 17 or 19. I'm sorry.
19.
19.
Stand.
All right, so moving on to item number 20, there are none, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 21. There are two cases under that file. So with those cases as presented, if someone has a concern regarding one of those cases, you can ask for that case to be pulled. We can discuss that case, but if people reviewed that case and there's no concerns, then I would entertain a motion to accept those orders as presented.
And just to explain to the new members, these are orders terminating orders. So people were under previous orders and they applied for lifting of the order, if you will, or terminating it early, and they were recommended as granted. So if you agree to the recommendation for granting, then that would be your motion. Granting termination, sorry.
And Miss, I'm sorry, Miss Crosby, Miss Pajak spoken several times. Has she actually introduced herself per your request
I don't
today, or
think
is she
so.
disregarding you?
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm
is a rebel
Assistant
now and
General.
again.
I'll give a brief rundown. Assistant General Counsel, I've been with the board since 2009, like Sarah. Been working in General Counsel for 10 years now. Very closely aligned with Scott throughout my entire career here at the board, and every day is a new day. Learn lots and handle lots of different issues, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.
I miss Wendy being on the side of the medical board in ISCs because she was someone that the opposing counsel typically did not want to see sitting across from her. So she's very, very talented and very willing to catch them in their defense. So very
you.
diligent. So. All right. So, and what I would say too is that these went through an actual hearing process. So there were board members involved in making this recommendation to terminate these orders. So that being said, if there's no questions, I'll entertain or concerns regarding the orders, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the termination request as submitted.
Second.
Okay. So PA Bowles and then PA Todd. And any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposition say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, so that completes item number 21. Moving on to item number 22. These are orders that were recommended after ISCs. And having reviewed those cases, if someone has questions or concerns, we can pull those or discuss them. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to grant those orders, those agreed orders as submitted.
Agreed.
Okay, so first by Dr. Ali, do we get a second?
Second.
Okay, looks like our PA Todd was first maybe. And PA Corbett's trying to get in there. All in, so any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition, say nay. Okay, any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries and those orders are accepted. Okay, so moving on to item number 23, there are none. Moving on to item 24, there are none. Moving on to item number 25, none. Item number 26, none. Item number 27, none. Item number 28, none. Item number 29, none. Item number 30, none. And item number 31, none. Item number 32, none. And for those of you who are new, who wonder why I'm going none, 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 it's for the purpose of the record showing that we didn't have any issues regarding that agenda item. Item number 33, none. And so can board staff help me with item 34 to see if there's anyone in the audience that's here for the purpose of public comments?
And certainly there is nobody in the room with us today. So nobody has signed in the room or indicated they want to make a public comment in the room. However, if there are people that have joined us online, now would be the time to make a public comment. We limit that to 3 minutes and it cannot bring up anything that is before the board, actively before the board waiting for an action. But if anyone is out there that would like to make a public comment, you can either raise your hand, or if you're just phoned in, you can just take yourself off of mute and start talking and let us know who you are, and we'll kind of take it from there. Just
While we're waiting for acknowledging someone who's potentially going to move forward as public comment, anyone else just in preparation to move beyond this, if no one speaks up, other board members who are on the call, or on the meeting, we'd like you to introduce yourselves if you have a role in the business of the board as well. But circling back, anybody here for the purpose of public comments?
okay.
All right, so any other staff, TMB staff members on the call? I know, Ms. Williams, we haven't given you an opportunity to introduce yourself. Would you like to speak?
Sure. Hi, good morning. So some of you might recognize me from when I was in litigation department, where I had been since 2018. So I know you might know my face, but now I am in general counsel as of like 2 days ago, the first of the month. So fairly new, just kind of picking up on the background work. Yeah, so with the board, a little over 5 years, or maybe even coming up on 6, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. All right, any other staff members on the call that we should hear from?
Should call out. I don't know if we've got, you've heard from Ms. Underborn and Ms. Hines. I know we've got Ms. Henneke, she's the Director of Investigations, and I think we have Ms. Swanholm, she's the Director of Litigation. If they want to say something just very briefly, I'll put them both on the spot here.
Didn't know if Amy wanted to go first. Hi, good morning. My name is Debbie Henneke. I'm the Director of Investigations. I've been with the medical board for about 23 years, all in investigations. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have about our department. But essentially, saying what I am and saying what I do is investigate And the bottom line is that if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer that.
Thank you, Ms. Haneke. All right, Ms. Swanholm.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Swanholm. I have been practicing this as a state attorney since 2007. I've been with the board since, I believe 2013. Spent some time as a litigation attorney, was in general counsel for about 5 years, and have been the director of litigation now for 2 years. Very sorry to see Kamisha go, but very excited to work with her in her new role as assistant general counsel. The litigation department has, 11, 12 attorneys now, and we have support staff. We're supporting litigation in all of the license types that the agency is responsible for. If you have any questions about a case or about how litigation works, please feel free to reach out. Happy to talk. Thank you.
All right, I'll make sure just one last time that nobody has joined that wants to speak on it as a public comment. And if nobody speaks up very quickly, then we will go on to item number 35, consideration and approval of July 14th board meeting minutes. Does anybody have any questions or concerns regarding those minutes? Okay, if there's no concerns or discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Will we accept the minutes as presented?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes, and I guess Dr. Rowan could second.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed, say nay. And any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries. All right, so as we're moving towards adjournment, I just want to say, I know we have several previous and current, or many of us who are connected to people in military service. I know Veterans Day is coming up next week. So we want to acknowledge our veterans and say thank you for your service. And we very much appreciate your role in our military as veterans. So any concerns or questions or other things that anyone would like to discuss or bring up prior to adjournment?
Yes, PA Crosby, Cameron here. Can you point me to where I can find the meeting dates for next calendar year for the
Yeah,
PA?
so Laura said that she was attaching them in an email, but we can ask her to make sure that she sends those out again, just to make sure that they're readily available. She was going to send the meeting dates for the PA board and the medical board, as well as a sign-up sheet for the liaison for the medical board.
Yes, and Ms. Flaherty did put those in agenda item 5 for the physician assistant liaison report. That the calendars are in there in your file folder.
And the calendars are also updated on the website. We have through 2025 listed.
Fantastic, thank you. And forgive me if this was covered earlier in the meeting while I was out. Is there any plans to have in-person meetings going forward the next calendar year?
The boardroom in this building looks fantastic. I mean, it really does. It looks really nice. It's big and lots of room. Some of the wiring in the room is not done, and then some of the sort of figuring out the how to connect online with the secure network for each individual agency in a shared space. So we would hope by the March timeframe that we will be able to. We did set aside money in the budget for each board to have an in-person meeting during fiscal year 2024. The goal was originally October. We're now into November. We looked at December, and I think now we're looking at for the medical board in March, and then we'd get with Ms. Crosby and you all on your meeting. So it is the plan to do one in-person meeting per year for each board type. And we do have a lovely facility for it. There's no parking here, but we'll figure that out for y'all. But there's a lovely facility. We just got to get the network issues figured out. And hopefully the next meeting where we meet, we will have the date for you where we will do it in person. That would be a good goal for us.
Thank you, Mr. McEnany. I agree. I think now that we have our full complement of our board, I think it behooves us to at least kind of meet in person and kind of build some more of that rapport. So we know each other, and I know we get to know each other, especially during the ISCs, and since that's a little bit more of a one-on-one. But yes, I think we all are craving being more in person than by digital virtual. So, all right. Any other questions or concerns? I know everybody's willing to want to get off as soon as possible, but maybe each of us could just say a quick blurb to introduce ourselves to the new board members. I'll start by saying I've been on the board since like 2015. I started out as just a regular member, became the secretary, which is technically the kind of the vice president equivalent, and then I replaced PA Cooper as the presiding officer years ago. And I work in family medicine, and I've been a PA for almost 30 years. So I very much kind of see this role as a way to give back to my profession, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve. PA Bowles, would you like to say something about yourself?
Sure. I've been on the board since 2015. I work full-time as a hospitalist in Abilene, Texas. I also teach at Hardin-Simmons as one of the assistant professors. My mentor as a PA is Mr. Richard Todd, that's sitting here. So if board staff thought I was difficult to work with, it came from someone. So that's just how I was trained. No, in all seriousness, he took a young student from Wake Forest and really was instrumental in shaping my practice. And so very appreciative to Richard. But happy to be on the board, reappointed in 2021, and be reaching out to those of you on the Discipline Ethics Committee to kind of step through the process of where we go from here, how we do ISCs, those sorts of things. And so always a pleasure to work with board staff and my fellow PAs.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes, would you like to say something about yourself?
Sure, thank you. My name's Larry Hughes. I'm currently the Vice President of Corporate Human Resources and Enterprise Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with 7-Eleven Incorporated. I have actually been serving on the board, wow, time flies, for 5 years. And so time flies there. And I'll also share that as a proud veteran of the United States Army, I'm happy to also serve on the board of directors of the Armed Services YMCA, which works to support the families of particularly our lower enlisted men and women. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Dr. Rowan, would you like to speak to the board?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm Greg Rowan, otolaryngologist in Harlingen, Texas. Actually, I'm in the car right now. We're traveling up to Austin, so I was hoping that we could get this meeting up in Austin one of these times. But yeah, I've been on the board since 2020, and I just got reappointed. So I guess it's another 3 or 6 year appointment. I can't remember which, but I'll be around. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Rowan. Okay, Mr. McElhaney.
Hey, y'all. Cameron McElhaney, the regional sales manager at LaForce, currently reside in Houston, Texas. I've been on the board since about 2019, I believe, and I was just recently reappointed to the board.
Thank you, Mr. McElhaney. PA Gottschalk.
Linda Gottschalk. I live in Austin, Texas. I am educator now. I work at South University as a didactic assistant director and as an assistant professor there. I am toward the end of my appointment. 2015 is when I started. So you may be getting rid of me soon, and another new face on here.
Thank you. PA Longoria.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sandra Longoria. I am an internal medicine PA with geriatric care. I believe I got appointed to the board right around 2020. I was trying to remember my date. I can't believe it was 2020 or 2021. But I also reside in Harlingen, Texas, as Dr. Rowan, and I'm just very happy to be part of this board committee.
Thank you. PA Sauer.
My name's Andrew Sauer. I'm up here in Amarillo, Texas. I practice a little bit of everything, interventional radiology, ER, but my main concentration is allergy and asthma. I think I was appointed to the board in 2018 or 2019. I finished up somebody else's term and then got my own term after that. And that's about it.
Thank you. Okay, so 2 members aren't here today. We have a public member, Ms. Shipley. She's an architect in the Austin area, a historical architect nonetheless, which I think is very interesting. And then Dr. Ho is an ER doctor kind of in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think is where he lives. So we'll meet them next time we have a meeting. All right, any other discussion before I entertain a motion to adjourn? All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. First by PA Gottschalk, second by PA Todd. Anybody opposed and want to stay along a little bit longer? Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Oh, Mr. Freshour, were you wanting to speak up regarding something? Okay. Okay. All right. So anybody opposed, say nay. All right. So we will adjourn. Thank you guys for a very efficient meeting. I know we spent a little bit more time in discussion for the purpose of our new members, but I appreciate you guys being here today and continuing your service, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.